Welcome back, friends. We hope you're doing well today. Hope that you're blessed. And if there are struggles or challenges you're facing at the moment, we pray that God will meet you in those and that we can be encouraging as well here in what we're doing. I'm glad to be back with my compadres, Dr. John King, Dr. Ryan Nordell. These are some great men and just frankly fun and friendly. It's just been lovely to hang out with them. It's very easy and it's great to be able to partner together and providing world-class health and wellness information to you guys. I wanted to have Dr. Ryan Nordell in particular comment and pick up on a theme that he mentioned in a previous podcast. He has a background in physical training, orthopedics, advanced level fitness solutions for people. And, he started to talk briefly about the concept of core strength. And so I wanted to have him back today to amplify on that a little bit and talk through that, maybe some case studies, examples. I know I could share some from my side and stuff. So welcome back, Ryan. It's good to see you, brother.
Yeah, you too. John, doing
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, doing wonderful, man. Good to see you. I'm
Good.
fascinated by this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good. It's good. Well, it's a great question because we started talking about what are the most common, ailments and issues that people deal with, and one of them that's got to be at the top of the list is low back pain, right? For males, it hits us as we get older, we get out of shape, whatever it is. We put a few too many pounds on our tummy on the front, and then what it does mechanically is it shifts our hips forward and then gives us, sore lower back. For females, same thing. We get older, we get out of shape, or maybe it's childbearing, and all the hormonal changes and the changes to the ligaments around that area and that kind of thing. A huge percentage of the population, when they're filling out a health questionnaire or something, it's like, yeah, my back hurts, or I wake up and it's sore, and that's just getting older. And I'd really love to argue that point with them and say it's not getting older. It's
good.
core stabilization. I
Yeah,
think that that's something that, as a practitioner, I refuse to accept that as an answer for myself personally and for my clients.
that's good,
Is
mate.
to say, you know, I'm not just going to say, well, I'm 45. In fact, I turn 45 next week. I'm not just going to say I'm 45. So, some low back pain is to be expected. Whatever you want to pick on. I can't do this activity that I used to do as much because I'm just getting older. And we've been brainwashed maybe as a society and as a
Yeah.
culture to think that our trajectory is, this, and then we spend our last days in an assisted living or a nursing home, and it's, we deteriorate Alzheimer's and we're weak and all this stuff.
No,
And,
no,
and, and yeah, I don't subscribe to that, and
no
so
way.
the very first thing that, and at the crux of this, and, Dr. Turner and I talked about it last time, little bit. It's your core stabilization because everything works from the outside in. And so whether you're dealing with a shoulder issue or a hand, or you're doing whatever movement you're doing, you could pick any sport, right, that you're going to do, whether it's golf or baseball or football or whatever. Sure, there's specific skill things that are related to that, but balance and core stability um, are what is needed at the foundation for all of that. And what I find that most of my clients, probably 98% of people, have never heard of this. But it's these muscles called the transverse abdominis and the multifidus. And what happens, or anatomically, how those muscles work, is that the transverse abdominis is the deepest anteriorly, so on the front of the spine, and then the multifidus is the deepest muscle posteriorly on the back of the spine. And those two muscles form a corset together to stabilize the spine. And I like to provide this analogy because when we think about doing core strength or core training, most of us think about our six pack muscles, and most of the exercises that we do are for our six pack muscles. And that's actually called our rectus abdominis and then our obliques, which are on the side. And really, what happens is when you train those stronger muscles, the rectus abdominis and the obliques, the transverse abdominis actually says, "Oh, the big guys are here. I'm just going to shut down." So we think
Wow,
we're training our core, but really we're
wow,
missing
that's
that
good.
transverse abdominis if we don't know how to fire it, if we don't know how to keep it on, and if we don't do that as a baseline. And so, starting there is almost every program, that I incorporate with people when we're overcoming pain or we're looking to reach this specific goal or whatever it is. We almost always start with looking at the transverse abdominis, looking at, how that works. And then for low back pain too, I'd love to get into it and hear your story a little bit, Dr. Turner, because it's just right in line with this. Because you probably did a lot of the things, that I'm teaching on a day-to-day basis and that kind of stuff. Um, but it's just really interesting because we're so you can get an MRI report, and just because that MRI says one thing, I have a herniated disc or bulging disc or whatever it is, all this stuff, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm debilitated and I have pain. My body is resilient. The word resiliency keeps coming up to us, right? From a mental health standpoint and from a
Yeah.
physical standpoint and everything. I love it. But my body is resilient. It wants to be self-healing. I just have
Yeah,
to
that's
coach
good.
it along, give it the right tools, put it in the right posture and the right framework, um, and move about the right way. But strengthening the core is paramount for foundation. And so, with my strength, with my mobility, with overcoming injury, with injury prevention, that's something that I love to talk about is like, hey, let's not be reactive as a society and as a medical culture in our country. We're very health reactive, right? I get sick, so I go take this pill. I get hurt, so I go do this or have this
It's
surgery.
good.
It's like, what if we could flip the script and be proactive on all that and stay
Yes.
strong and stay healthy and take the vitamins and the supplements and eat a nutritious diet that I need to do so that I don't, get to that point where now I have to have reactive healthcare.
That's good, mate.
So,
Mhm.
yeah. So share with me maybe your story, Dr. Turner, about your back. Talk about it a little bit because it's really key.
Yeah, well, so at the time I was working at the hospital in a neuroscience center. So I did non-surgical care for back pain, neck pain, of all different kinds, and other neurologic conditions. And I've always been aggressive in the gym. And interestingly enough, all of my injuries are self-inflicted in the gym. I've never actually had a proper sporting injury. I've only
Oh
had
my
things
gosh.
I've done to myself in the gym. And I'm an overachiever and a perfectionist and a hard driver.
Really?
And so,
Really? I would never. No, really?
yeah, some people just get that vibe. I don't know why.
Because we
Uh,
all have it.
yeah. So my exercise philosophy used to be pretty hard driving, and this was a bit of a turning point for me at this time. So I remember my workout that day was really heavy deadlifts, and then alternating with going to the rowing machine and doing like a 130 500-meter pace,
Wow.
which is strong. I mean, you're putting out like there's smoke coming off the chain on the rowing
Yeah,
machine if you're
yeah,
doing
for
130
sure.
500 meters. Anyway, so it was power packed, and I'm lifting up near some strong deadlift weight, and the thought goes through my mind: you need to back off, or else you're gonna tear a disc and pinch a nerve in your back. And then I put the weight down. I was like, come on, stay positive. I was like, where'd that thought come from? Like, come on, you got to stay dialed in. Lock in, lock in. I got 2 more reps. I, I can't be thinking about my back blowing up. I'm like, come on. So I do the second rep. It's kind of effortful, but I got it. The same thought comes through my mind again. You better
Oh,
stop.
man.
Yep, you're gonna blow up a disc. You're gonna pinch a nerve in your back. I'm like, come on, stay positive, lock in, let's go. Finish this set, right? That third lift, it's like somebody took a hatchet and just swung
Ah,
it down, and it hit my spine, and then they left it there. That's the only way I can describe it. They just left the hatchet just hanging in the base of my spine, and
Wow.
I couldn't straighten up at all because there's a hatchet sitting there, and just sharp pain all
hmm
kind of into my left glute area and stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so,
Wow, bro.
yeah, so I lean over and I find the nearest bench. And, my man pride, I don't want to display that I've just hurt myself lifting too much weight.
rub some dirt on it. I'm all right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm leaning awkwardly off this bench, pretending like I'm stretching, but I'm I'm trying to
Never
find
done that.
I'm trying to find yeah, John, guilty there, brother. Look at you.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to find some position that'll take the hatchet out of my spine and enable me to walk to the locker room. Okay. And I'm literally stranded on the gym floor for about 20 minutes, like fake stretching, like trying to get it together to go to the locker room. I go to the locker room. It's all I can do. I sit down on a bench in the locker room. I can't even get up to open my locker. I'm another 20 minutes on the bench, like trying to get it together, figure out how am I going to stand balance without this hatchet, doing a number. This whole thing, this goes on. Fast forward, about a week later, I'm in my very own office at the neuroscience center at the hospital in a wheelchair, getting wheeled past my office that's now vacant because I'm on short-term disability. I go right past my office. I go to the office of my friend, the neurosurgeon, Dr. Matthew Fuel. I'm like, Matt, you got to do something about my back, man. I mean, surgery's never the first resort, but here we are, and this thing is not getting better. Da da da. I've been in the ER. I've gotten shots. Nothing's working. My leg doesn't work. All that stuff. So I had back surgery. I had a discectomy, and it was amazing. It was amazing. The moment I got out of the operating room in the recovery room, that hatchet was out of my back for the first time in weeks. And so it was just extraordinary. But then that began this journey of I had to rehab myself. I had to take my own medicine, right? So I was definitely, lifting all this weight and doing all this stuff. And now I'm just, with a back brace on in the swimming pool at my gym.
With the little pink dumbbells.
Yes. Yeah. But resiliency, and I had to fight back from
that's
that.
good.
And, yeah. So today I'm back. I'm strong. I'm fit. I can run. I can do box jumps. I can do squats and things. But I know my limits and I don't push.
Yeah.
Past a certain
You know,
point.
one of the biggest things, kind of along those lines, are that I preach this to people because I see it over and over and over again, is that as our body is aging, it wants to do this, right? It wants to decline. How many health statistics are there around, um, what our hormones do and what our metabolism does and all this stuff, that's constantly wanting to take us downhill, into this weak, feeble, injury prone kind of state of our body. And so to combat that, we have to change what we're doing. Our mindset has to change about what we're doing. And so as we're getting older and we're trying to do this and our body's trying to do this, I have to change, okay, what does my routine look like? So flexibility becomes more important, right? Core stabilization becomes more important. Lifting for endurance type muscles becomes more important than, 1 or 3 rep maxes or something like that. Balance becomes more important. And these are all things that we know as we're looking at longevity protocols and we're looking at our health span versus our lifespan, right? Like for our audience,
Good.
your lifespan is chronological, right? It's just how many years old am I going to live to be? 95, 85, whatever it is. But your health span is how healthy am I within those years? And I'm much more concerned around our health span. Like I don't could care less if I live to be 110, but the last 40 years of my life are decrepit
Yeah.
or relying on someone to pick me up and transfer me into my wheelchair or whatever. So our health span becomes important, and that's where core strength and core stabilization really, really pay dividends for us when we focus on those things. So I'm focusing in the gym on being healthy, not necessarily looking at my physique or how much weight can I lift. And certainly we have metrics, right?
Yeah.
That tell us, hey, my grip strength or my dead hangs and stuff like that. We have metrics around these things that say, hey, for a male at this age, for longevity metrics, you should probably be about right here. But one of the most common kind of things that I talk to people about is that they've been out of the gym for a while. They want to go back in or something, and they say, "Oh, well, I got to get a gym membership, and I got to do that." And I said, "No, you don't have to because you can do well." And right here behind me is my little biohacking kind of area of my house that I do this stuff. Um, and with a few simple pieces of equipment and body weight exercises and appropriate instruction and appropriate posture, you can really do a lot of the things that you need to do to maintain that health span and
Yeah.
to maintain your strength and to maintain your balance and to do all the things that are important to us as we age. You can really do all those things at home. And I love doing that because the gym membership and stuff, it creates barriers, right? Like I want to preach to people and talk to you about doing these things, but eliminating all the excuses. Okay, so if I have a gym membership, but it's raining that day. I was like, oh, I don't want to drive to the gym. I got to get out of my car. I'm gonna get wet, whatever. Okay, so I didn't work out that day because I have to go to the gym, right? Or, I'm in a rough spot financially. I'm going to cancel my gym membership. I can't afford it right now. Okay, well, I don't even have a gym membership, so I can't go to the gym, right? But if I change my mindset into thinking, okay, I can do this stuff at home. I mean, I personally do like to go to the gym. I mean, I like the social aspect of it. I go sometimes. I don't have to though. I can do things here, and I oscillate between going and staying and that kind of thing. But if I change my mindset into just thinking about, okay, what can I do to just live a healthy lifestyle that's easy, convenient, social? That's another big thing. It's like, hey, find a group or do it with your spouse or whatever it is when you're walking and when you're lifting weights or doing fun activities with your kids that might be plyometric in nature and stuff. We just started playing in my family. We started playing spike ball. Have you guys ever played that? You know what that
Seen it.
Okay. So my kids are all teenagers and I'm trying to keep up with them, right? And doing a good job, I think. But then you go play spike ball and you're hitting this ball on this net and then you've got to like quickly move over here and hit the ball back and it's like all this plyometric stuff. And I'm thinking about it and I'm like, man, I love this because what it's doing is it's keeping my body resilient. It's working on my balance, it's working on quick
Good.
twitch muscle fibers and movements and things. And it's fun, it's fun. It's something that I like to do, or playing pickleball or whatever it is, lots of things that you like to
Mm-hmm.
do. But those are some of the things that I like to talk about around people as we're looking at health span versus lifespan, and we're looking at, hey, core strength and stability. Why is that so important? And the reason why are all the things that we talked about. We kind of branched from there out on everything. And man, I love to just educate people around that and build programs for people around that stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
yeah.
Phenomenal. Yeah. So let's tell the people, speaking of transversus, what's maybe one top exercise people could be doing to help with their transversus,
Hmm.
which, if you recall, Dr. Nordell said is one of the deepest muscles, and it's kind of on the front side of your spine. And then on the back side, we have the multifidi. So maybe give us one exercise for each of those that people could think about.
Yeah. So the most foundational exercise that I do for transverse abdominis is just an isometric contraction because until you learn how to just turn that muscle on and contract it and hold it, then you do all these other things where you do like a Valsalva maneuver where you're just, and you're holding your breath and you're like, okay, I'm contracting everything here, and you're not really doing it. And so the key thing to me is I'm taking people through and instructing on this is learning how to palpate it. And it's really easy to do. And you can do it as you're watching this podcast or sitting in a chair, standing up or whatever.
All
But
right, here we go.
here we go. Let's do it. You're going to find those two pointy bones right on the fronts of your hips. So right around your waistline. Yep. You're going to have them on either side. Those are called your ASIS, your anterior superior iliac spine. And then as you're palpating and finding those two pointy bones, you just bring your fingers off and in towards your belly button, just about an inch, maybe even half an inch. So now I'm kind of in my belly and my tummy right there. So now I'm palpating over what's called the transverse abdominis. And then to contract it, what I'm thinking about doing is drawing my belly button down and in, so towards the back of my spine. The easiest way to do it is if you're laying down on your back and you're doing this thing because you're relaxed and that kind of stuff. But as we're sitting here and doing it, that's what you're thinking about doing. And then I'm going to just hold. I'm going to do an isometric contraction, which means I'm going to hold and just stay in that position. I'm not moving. It's a static contraction, is what that's called as well. And I'm going to hold it for 3 seconds, and then I'm going to turn it off. So stop contracting, and then I'm going to re-engage and hold it for 3 seconds again, and then I'm going to stop contracting. And that's the number one exercise. I just when I'm starting with anybody
Wow.
that have low back pain or not, it's simple, but it's really really pivotal. And a reason why it's pivotal is because these muscles that we're talking about for stabilization, they're endurance muscles. That means that like I don't want them to be able to lift a lot of heavy weight, 5 or 10 times or something. I want them to stay on all day long and protect my back whenever I'm bending over to do this thing or I'm playing
Mm-hmm.
spike ball with my kids
That's good,
or
mate. That's really
whatever it
good.
is. And so when your mindset kind of goes in that manner and says, okay, maybe my bicep, I want to be able to lift something heavier, quickly or whatever it is, that you may train that in a different way. But these endurance muscles, like your postural muscles and the transverse abdominis and the multifidus, I want to do high reps. So I'm going to be doing isometric contractions for 20 or 30 or 40 reps. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with that foundational transverse abdominis contraction. And then I'm going to do something else like a hip adduction movement where I'm now engaging, some of my adductor magnus and my hamstring muscles and things like that.
Very good.
So yeah, that's what I like to talk about. And then for the multifidus one, you've got to do stuff where I'm getting into extension. So I like to lay down on my tummy and do a simple arm raise like this, and that starts to fire those posterior muscles on your back. I will caution our audience as you're doing this stuff, if you do have existing low back pain, then you need to get it checked out before you just start doing these exercises. There's a proper sequence and a right time and a right place to do that stuff. And like Dr. Turner just said, his case was surgical, and sometimes that's the answer. My platform, that I kind of advertise and I talk about a lot is that I do non-surgical, non-pharmaceutical pain management. But sometimes there is the time and the place for surgery, right? Dr. Turner, of all people, you would have known if, okay, this is something I got to surgically fix or not.
Yeah.
So I always advise you make sure you're talking to a healthcare practitioner, an expert around this stuff before we just start doing these exercises that could potentially make our situation worse. But yeah, what else do you guys want to know around that? I love talking about it. I talk about it all day. I talk to my kids about it too. My daughters are running track and cross country in high school now and kind of following dad's footsteps. And, they may or may not do a good job of that stuff in training, with their coaches and stuff. And so I make them do it, and I explain to them and so that they understand, man. It's injury prevention, when you've got a strong core that really helps you to not get injured in the future, no matter what sport you're doing. And so
Very good.
taking the time to do it.
I'm kind of convicted. I've got two mates that are the world's best at what they do, and I'm starting to make appointments for you guys. So when can we launch this app so I can go on and get all the free stuff?
Yeah, I know. I can't wait to see all your stuff.
Warning, John, I am selective about who I work with.
Yeah,
Okay?
right. Yeah, right. Thanks very much, Turner.
You gotta screen your potential customers really closely.
Oh, you're right,
Oh man.
If you come off too much of a head case, I might have to.
Bro, I'm crazy. I've got a certificate that says I'm crazy, man. Like, what's your reason?
Well, now we have a place for that, John. We can send everybody to John.
Yeah, wow, great. The crazy guy. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's good. Good
Well,
stuff.
yes, it is. Here we are, friends. We hope you're doing well. We hope this was encouraging
Yeah.
for you. Yeah, and just lighthearted and inspiring, educational, all at the same time. We're loving working together. We're the three amigos. We're bringing you MannaLife app, and we're going to continue these kinds of discussions. So have a blessed day. Take care.